What's up, Liron here, and today we're gonna paint this scene. Sup, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. And today what we're gonna do is paint outside. It's been a while, and we're gonna work on this scene as I mentioned. Hopefully you will be able to see it well now, okay? And it's a bit of a challenging scene, and I'm trying to incorporate everything I learned so far in terms of composition and arrangement, and working slowly and patiently and really observing the reference with doing it outside, which is a big challenge. There's a lot of interruptions. Cars keep coming in my way. So in any case, I think this is going to be a really good video with a really good message as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the process. And a moment before starting, I just wanted to give you a sneak peek into what the final work looks like, okay?
So first I'm just prepping my paper for painting, so I'm starting to put some tape around it. And then this guy obstructed my view. Okay, so I'm starting with the drawing process, and as you saw, I remind him of the rapper Little Dicky. Okay, so first off, I'm throwing a few guidelines that let me know where the main lines are gonna be, so where the buildings start and end. This allows me to test out the composition without committing too much to anything too final. So I'm just putting in some very loose lines, and now I'm starting to go with some darker lines that will indicate the final location of the scene. I chose to go with a crop that's similar to what you see on the left. I cut out some of the view so you can see exactly what I decided to focus on. I'm going to talk about a bit more about it.
So this is proving to be a bit of a challenging scene, and let me show you what I've done so far, what I'm going to try and do at least. So I've got this as a drawing so far. It's not a lot, but I'm just getting started, and you see the scene is a little complex, and I was wondering how I should frame it and how I should crop it. I did want to convey the height of the buildings here, and so I feel like this has to be a portrait orientation and not landscape. So this is what I'm going for, and we're just going to give it a shot. One of the things when I'm doing this, when I'm recording outside, when I'm painting outside, is I don't want to stress myself too much, because painting outside with the conditions that keep changing and just the pressure of people looking at you and recording this really adds a lot of pressure, and I don't want to force myself to feel bad about the result. So I'm just going to try and go for it, and we'll see what we can produce here. Definitely when I paint inside and I'm much more relaxed and I have no interruptions, zero interruptions basically, the result tends to be much better and I'm much more focused. Okay, so I'm just going to do my best and let's get started.
Okay, so moving on with this part, I'm just wrapping up the drawing. There's this tiny roof top on top of the roof, which is an important part. There's going to be an interesting shadow there. So I decided to go with a composition that allows me to demonstrate the... I knew that I want to go with a portrait-oriented painting, and so I wanted to show the heights of the buildings. Now the thing was, I didn't plan on showing both of those buildings together, and I was afraid or fearful that it will kind of close off the scene and make it look really closed off and claustrophobic. So this means I needed to find a really good balance in the values, because the building on the left is really solid. Then we've got the building on the right, and this was where I had more of the luxury to play around with. So the building on the right, I tried making it a little of a lighter value. You'll see soon in the later stages. So I'm just starting with one even wash for the skies. Very pale as I can do it, like a lot of water, just a little pigment. It looks a bit dark, but it will dry up really lighter. And I'm using a lot of water for the sky area to lighten things up. When my whole goal is to get to the building part and then to not allow as much water to drip there, but to use a bit of warmer colors just for where the highlights are, where I'm gonna leave it later on very bright and kind of happy. Okay, so now you see it just keeps falling down and I have to rearrange it. And you see it in time lapse now, it's like 3 times the original speed. So you can really see how the angle of the paper, because there's a lot of weight there. I actually found a solution to avoid from that happening later on. I just placed my water cup in a different place and it doesn't happen as much. But in any case, it's really common when I do this portrait orientation. You can really see the gradual movement. So anyway, I covered everything, covered the blue for most of the details, then the yellow for the building.
So I'm done with the first wash here. It has everything that I wanted. So basically just the sky, the buildings are going to come later and they're going to be darker. A bit of sunlight on that building that's going to pop much more once we add the shadows, and some highlights on the cars. I think I did a decent job here, not trying to overthink it. I'll try and work in multiple layers as much as necessary. And not get this over with as fast as possible, but still do it quickly, at least as quickly as necessary. Okay, so this really shows you some of the challenges of working outside. Like, where's my building? Where is it? Where is it now? Tell me. It's gone behind that truck. So yeah, you have to just continue waiting and at times, but that's fine. So anyway, I'm gonna continue in just a few moments once the paint dries.
So moving on, I just forgot to hit the record, so apologies about that. So the building on the left, I didn't get to capture it as well as I wanted to. I also believe I will later on zoom in a little more so you can see more of the details. Apologies about that. It's really tricky to find a good angle to record when I'm working outside, so I'm really trying to improve it with time. So in any case, what I have here is the underpainting is just a really light blue for everything, and then the only part where is going to be well lit is where I put some yellow from the previous wash. And now I'm just working my way around that. This is actually the building that you see on the left side. And the building on the right is the round building. What you see is the entire scene condensed into the left part of this, of the actual screen or video. So yeah, and now I want to connect that shadow to the shadow under the roof, and I'm going to do that gradually and very carefully. Okay, I know it's a bit hard to see, but hopefully you will be able to. Now I'm moving around the painting because some lines are harder to get from certain angles. Okay, so you will find yourself moving around them, and sometimes it can be a challenge, but you slowly learn what angles work best for you. This is, I found, to be really true with when you want to do a final piece in ink, and with ink you really have to be on top of things and get things correctly in one go many times. So it's also kind of a similar feeling of a finish, let's say. So what happened there is that I remember that while recording I actually winked. And so I actually went through the footage, found the exact place where I winked, and I wanted to preserve that. So yeah, and now I'm moving on to the building there. I find that painting outside really does a lot of good things for me, and it anchors me in some kind of a creative endeavor that really influences me positively. The ability to really create content fearlessly outside is something that I found challenging in the past, and now I feel like I won that battle, and it's much easier. So now you see me exaggerating quite a lot of things. For example, the front of that building, if you look to the left in the reference, it really isn't that dark. But what I saw there is an interesting opportunity to create some contrast and interesting shapes. So I decided to make it still dark to add some interest. And I spray occasionally just to keep things a little fresh because I find that the paint can dry really fast, especially in this weather with there's a lot of sun. I will post in the following weeks another video of me painting outside, and you'll see it was a nightmare. I couldn't get even one wash to be really even because of the sun just so strong. Now I'm in the shadow, so it's much better, but still. I was actually painting in that video I just mentioned. I was actually painting directly in the sun. So what I'm doing now is gradually moving in the building from a warmer shadow to a cooler shadow. Very common thing to do, but I wasn't doing it out of habit this time. I actually deliberately decided to do it. Now, the one Achilles heel of this painting, I would say, is the cars. I don't know why it's an Achilles heel, because I really messed up some just the impression that I wanted to create. I think I allowed myself to fail there. I wasn't on top of it enough, and I just allowed myself to draw cars as I think or imagine they look, instead of actually observing the reference. So that's on me. That's something I could have done better myself. And it's the one weak point of this painting, and that's fine. Luckily enough, in the grand scheme of things, it really gets lost with all the other details. Now I'm painting a bus that's to the right. It was actually a bit of a complex thing to paint. It was really hard to tell what the values were and things like this. So I really tried winging it and seeing.
Okay, so I just want to give you a recap of what we've done so far. So that's our scene. Hopefully you can hear me. It's really, really noisy here. We've got those tall buildings and that building here, right here. And this is what I've got so far in terms of the painting. So what's left to do now is to allow all of this to dry and then come back with a really dark wash for this building in the background. Not as dark as you would think, because it's still pretty far away and we want to preserve that feeling of depth. I do need to think about what to do with this, because this wall turned out relatively dark, while it's pretty light when I look at it in front of me. So I may have to go really dark at the bottom of this building. I can try and alleviate this by starting light and giving a sense of distance and even height. And then as I go down, darken it up and then have it contrast with this wall and with this bus and everything here, okay? So this is just a part of the problem-solving process that comes along with painting a location, and just basically, I guess, every type of art. So I was asked to make videos that talk more about the process and how to plan the paintings and how to do such things. And I said I'm going to do this while I'm teaching, while I'm showing how I paint a certain scene, because it is a very advanced topic, the whole idea of planning, and I'm not a master of it yet. So as you can see, there's a lot of problems here to solve. It's really not that simple, but hopefully you get the idea and you understand what goes through my mind as I work on this, okay? So anyway, we're gonna let it dry and then continue and come back with a darker wash for the building in the background, and hopefully we can wrap it up nicely with some details in the cars and such things. Okay, and hopefully the main composition of the sunlit rooftop alongside with the building in the background will create the interest that we want and the beauty that we want in this scene. Okay, so I'm gonna continue now.
Okay, so now here comes the actual part of creating depth. And this is, I think, the most interesting part in terms of seeing the process. So I'm starting a bit dark, and then I realize it should be a little lighter at the top. So I'm just going back with pure water and dropping them on the building. And I'm going to do that again and again and come back with more water and wet that area a little more, you see now, just to make it a little lighter and to create that fading away effect. This was something that was really important for me to create here, because as I mentioned, I was in a bit of a catch-22. You know, I wanted to create a contrast and a feeling of depth with the building in the front, but I still needed to keep the bottom part a bit, you know, not too dark to bring it back. So it was just a big hot mess, and this is exactly where you just have to go with your gut and try to do what you think will work well. I think it's okay if your plan fails, but it is important to have a plan and try to execute on it. Okay, so when you do something in a deliberate manner, with watercolor that's especially true, you open up a door to success, because, you know, I just want to give you a better look at the scene without the canvas in the way. But in any case, when you do something deliberately, you try it out. Even if you fail, you at least know how you failed. But if you're just trying things out and, you know, hoping for the best, sometimes it hurts the learning experience. Now, sometimes you do need that experimentation time. For me personally, I like to keep that experimentation time pure and clean, and it's a dedicated time to that. It's very it's like I'm quarantining it from the rest, if that's even a verb, from the rest of the things I'm doing. Okay, so it's really a time where I allow myself to do exactly that. So now we're in the dry brush stage, and this is a bit easier because now it's like drawing basically. You don't have to worry too much about the wash drying or things like this. I used to think that that this stage does the painting or makes it look really good, but it's not true. It's actually the larger shapes. So just a little insight I learned with time. So she was really nice, and I'm gonna talk about that just a moment.
So see, this lady came by and she asked if she can take a look, and then when she looked at it, she said it's incredibly beautiful, basically in Hebrew. You heard it maybe, and I'm working on it, just accepting it, you know, because it's a part of the artist curse that Mark talks about in Draw Mix Paint, and also that I experience like ever since I got started in watercolor, is that it's hard for us to see the beauty in our own work, and a person who just walks by and sees it fresh, they don't think about the mistakes or comparing it to your vision. They just see a painting. So it's something I'm working on, and I'm really happy. She just said it's really beautiful, and I'm gonna just take her word for it.
So now we're continuing with the final stages. I really like when people stop by and take a look. You know, a lot of people are afraid they'll interrupt or something like that. I don't really care. I enjoy it. So yeah, I used to think that this stage really makes the painting what it is and makes it beautiful, you know, all the small details you add in the end. But now I know that it's really not true. What really makes the painting work for the most part is the larger major shapes, and I think I created an interesting composition with the two buildings, with the large one on the left on the bottom, and also that I avoided a major pitfall with the building on the right that could have easily become way too dark and block off the entire scene. But because I really added a lot of water to its top area, then it became really light, and I think it works well, and simultaneously it even conveys the height, which I think is something I wasn't really planning on necessarily achieving that way, but I just got lucky. So now I'm adding the darkest shadows under the cars. The only car that turned out the way I wanted to was the one on the right. All the rest of the cars are just not exactly the shape I wanted. It's really like a child's drawing in that sense, but that's fine. It was my decision back then to work like that, and I should have been a little more patient. Now the paint really started drying really fast. Maybe I wasn't using a wet enough of a wash, so it's kind of broken, the part where I added those lighter lines on the street. On the road itself, but that's okay. Now there's this person there, and I'm just trying to edit in gracefully and really try and show it without too many details, and you will soon see all of the small details that are a bit harder to see now. I will soon show you the final result, and you'll see exactly what they look like. There's also this entrance here to the building, and it was important for me to at least try and put it against the lighter car. And here's the final result, and you can see the person there, like really tiny figure. And I'm gonna show it to you more zoomed in. I hope you enjoy this one. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so friends, this is it. I'm gonna show you now the final result. I had to force myself to stop because I did feel like maybe I'll add a bit of this, a bit of that, maybe I'll add some more details, but when I look at the painting, it's perfect, and I don't think it needs anything else. It has an interesting composition, it has some depth to it. It has large shapes that are interesting, so I'm just gonna stop now and I'm gonna show you the final result. Okay, so here's the painting in its entirety. Now, I do realize that the recording isn't perfect here because of the light conditions. There's strong light behind the painting, so you can't really see all of the details during the video. This is why I probably ran it a time-lapse, not showing every single thing I'm doing. Let me show you up close. There's this single figure there standing next to the junction. There's this interesting shadows on the roof. I think this is really what makes this painting. All the rest is just an added extra as a setting, okay? Now what I did try and do is at least have like a two to three layers of foreground, middle ground, and background. Now I didn't really have a foreground, so I added these marks on the road, and I also I wanted to have something that pulls you in, but it was a bit challenging for me, so I'll have to just assume that the cars pull you in and the building, and then you get to see the rest of the scene and the bus and the buildings at the top. Okay, so I really did my best here. I think there's a good sense of light and shadow. The composition is decent. It's something I'm working on. Still a big challenge for me. But hopefully you enjoyed this process. Let's wrap up the video. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me just show you some view as I'm talking to you. Let's try and find a good area that's not too well lit. Okay, so anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This is a big challenge for me. Recording outside is a big challenge, and as I told you, I'm kind of forcing myself to do it once a week, but I don't always intend to use I don't make myself use the footage for anything. This is to take off some of the pressure. By the way, I'm with gum because I'm handling too many things here, so apologies about that. I forgot to take it out because there's just so much going on around me. Of course, when I'm inside, I'm trying not to. But in any case, I'm not forcing myself to use the footage, but I am forcing myself to record outside out of the rationale that I'll just get better at it by doing it and not by fearing it. And I talked about it in the past, even in my podcast. There's many layers of fear to it. There's the fear of just being judged by other people on the street. There's also the fear that the painting wouldn't connect the way I wanted it to. because of all of the distractions and the fact that I'm recording is a distraction even when I do it inside. So outside it's even multiplied even more. So in any case, this is it. I hope you enjoyed this vid. I'll stop rambling now. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications for future videos. I do post 3 vids a week, so if you don't want to miss them, do that. Also, I highly suggest, if you want to hear me talk about different topics, to check out my podcast. I'm going to put links to everything in the description box below. And this is it. Thank you so much. I will see you again in another vid real soon.